The dog has not moved since the previous video about Jerry's family. So this one is going to be about the rest of the Tamers families that we see in Digimon Tamers. First up is the Shioda family, which is Kazu's family. And his parents are Hirofumi Shioda and Takako Shioda. I'm sure I'm butchering these names. I apologize. Their ages are 38 and 39, respectively. We don't see that much of them. We see them. We really don't see that much of them at all. We see them when all of the different Tamers' parents are kind of brought together by Yamaki and the Monster Makers, and they explain where their kids are. It was like, oh, they're in the digital world right now, and from what we found out from them talking from from what we found out from Kazu and Kenta talking to Jerry right before they leave. Kazu just told his parents, oh, this is a school trip, and they bought it. I would like to see the permission slip and the notification that this was happening, because that seems like something that would happen. We see his parents. Yeah, they're not really prevalent in that part of it. The next time we see them is, of course, when all of the kids return from the digital world. And, we see his parents there, and his parents are just like, oh, great, now our son has a robot. And it talks. Okay, that's, I guess, a thing that is happening now. Our son goes away, technically kind of runs away without telling us, and then he comes back and he has a robot. We don't really see too much else with his parents. The last thing I think that we see with them is when Kazu and Gardramon are watching the news about what's going on in Shibuya with the D Reaper and everything, and getting fired up to ready to get go. Kazu's mom is just straight up kicking Gardramon. Why are you in my flowers? By the way, his mom looks a little bit like a supermodel or something like that. So I don't know. Maybe she's a model. I don't know. We never get any answer from that or anything, nothing along those lines, or the way that she dresses. Maybe she's, I don't know, a designer. Again, I don't know. We never get any of those answers. And we don't see his dad again after that. That's about it for the Shioda family. Moving on to the Kitagawa family, which is Kenta's family. His parents are Shunsuke Kitagawa and Akeme Kitagawa. As I said, I apologize for butchering these. They're not really ever named in the series, and I'm butchering these. I apologize. They are 48 and 43, respectively. With Kazu and Kenta, we never find out if they have any siblings. It's assumed not, since we never see any in the series, and none of them are ever mentioned. Again, we only see his parents at the meeting. They're like, Kenta left, and he just left a message by the coffee pot, because we had this conversation between Kazu and Kenta and Jerry in the episode when the kids were leaving for the digital world, and this is what their conversation resulted in. Guess what? I told my folks this was a school trip, and they gave me permission. I left mine a letter next to the coffee pot. What about you, Jerry? Well, I had Leomon talk to my dad. Wow, Jerry, you're a braver man than I am. So, yeah, he left a note by the coffee pot. Mom, Dad, I'm going to the digital world to help save a small Digimon named Calamon from a monkey Digimon named Makuramon. We'll be back. Possibly with a Digimon. Okay. So, they head off that way. And then we see them again, of course, when the Tamers are returning from the digital world. And Kenta is just kind of straight up crying when he sees his parents, because he's just like, I'm home. Also, I have a tiny little angel. And, we see them again at the same time with Kazu. He's watching, well, not with Kazu, but they're watching the same footage of the news about, seeing the other Tamers being attacked and everything, and dealing with the T Reaper. And he just straight up leaves, and we see his mom just and he's gone again. It's kind of the look on her face. Again, we don't see them again. It's just straight up implied that, like, just at the end of the series, after everything's all been beaten and sent back to the digital world and everything, that they just go back home. My child ran off to the digital world. I'd probably end up grounding them once they got back. If they didn't tell me first or whatever. But yeah, that's what we see there. We don't get anything else from them. And I did want to mention Rio's dad, who we see in a total of like 2 episodes. We see him in the episode when all the Tamers are returning. We see him there waiting for Rio along with the rest of the Tamers' parents. By the way, this is never explained in, at least not in the English dub. I don't know if it's ever explained in the Japanese dub. How did they find Rio's parents? How did they find his dad? I went over this in Rio's video, but it still applies. How did they find him? Did like when Takato and the others were like talking with their parents back and forth on the communication device and Yamaki and everything, did they just like straight up mention, hey, we found this other kid that's here. His name's Ryo Akayama. He's been here for a while. He was a famous, tamer for like the card game and everything. Do you think you can find his dad and tell him he's okay? Like, is that just what happened? And it's just off screen that we never see that or whatever? And like they find Ryo's dad. Never gets a name. Never ever gets a name. The other parents, I think, are just named mostly in like supplemental material beyond like, like Jerry's parents and then like, Rika and Henry and Takato's family. They're, Kazuo and Kenta's parents are just like named like in supplemental material somewhere else. For like names and ages for them. But yeah, we never get a name on Rio's dad. He's just there when Rio returns, and he's just like, hi, Dad. Yeah, you know how I left, like, I don't know, a year ago or whatever it was that, well, it's been around a year since Rio left, because he was, like, left after he, like, won the last tournament or whatever. Now Rika's the Digimon Queen. But he's, like, left, like, just straight up vanished one night, and, like, has his dad been wondering where he's been for the last year? It's just like, and you disappeared again. Rio, I've talked with you about this before. You can't keep wandering off when strange fog shows up and shows you a talking dinosaur. He just looks angry. Well, more like stern than angry. And then, Rio goes off with his dad and everything. And then, like, the next bit that we see is, like, because, Rio's kind of a celebrity. We see him and his dad and not Cyberdramon, Monodramon at that point in time being like mobbed as they're trying to get into their car. And, he's just like, leave my son alone. And he like sends the reporters away and then they get in the car. And like, he's just like, does this thing have to stay with us, referring to Monodramon? And Rio is like, well, this thing kept me safe in the digital world, and he's not a thing. His name is Monodramon. And then we just see, like, Monodramon, like, playing with stuff in the car, and he's just, like, setting off, like, the windshield wipers and, like, the windshield wiper fluid and everything. And Rio's dad is just like, will you stop? Sorry! Yeah, that's it. We never see Rio's dad again. It's implied that just some point in that time frame, Rio and Cyberdramon ended up being able to biomerge because of the power sent from the Sovereign, and then they head off to go help their friends. It's assumed, again, he just goes back home at some point in time, but then again, Rio continuity is a lot more fudged than other stuff, since he pops up in Digidestined and Digimon Adventure as well, and then the games and stuff like that, because he's just like a bounce around character. But yeah, just like, how did they get his dad? How did they find him? And then lastly, I did want to throw these in. As I mentioned in the first Digimon Tamers movie called Battle of Adventure, which at some point I will do a review of. I just haven't done that yet. I'm probably going to end up going through and doing reviews of all of the movies. But we have the Uehara, not to be confused with Kisuke. It's nothing to do with Kisuke. The dad is somewhat of a genius, so I'll give him that. The Uehara family, who is the family of Minami, who is, of course, the tamer that we meet in that, who has Cicermon as her Digimon somewhat. And I went over this when I talked about Minami, but her father is Takahito Uehara. It's, just so you know how I'm pronouncing it, it's Uehara, not Uehara. Different. And her father, Takahiko, is the creator of the V-Pet, which is, of course, kind of where the conflict for the movie comes from, with that being manipulated by, Mephistomon / Golfmon and everything, and how it just causes a bunch of problems around the world and everything. We know that Takahiko is kind of a genius in the fact that he had built the V-Pet in order to help Minami get over the loss of her dog May. We also have seen May in the movie, and I'm going to talk about her. She's a cute little puppy. We never get a breed on her. I don't know if she's supposed to be a specific breed or not, but she's supposed to look kind of like Labramon. So probably implied that it's some, like, I don't know, a Labradoodle, I don't know, or a Labrador, somewhere in that range. I've seen Labrador. They don't look like that. And we know that May got lost and died during this storm whenever when Minami was out surfing, and we know that Minami has blamed herself ever since then, which is why she doesn't surf anymore. And we know that at one point Takahito was taken prisoner by some of these other random Digimon that are working for Mephistomon. And then of course we know that the guy that had ended up helping bring the V-Pet to market and everything, I don't remember the guy's name, don't care, it's a fake name, he's actually Mephistomon in disguise. We see that Takahito is ready to trade information about it in order to protect Minami, because Minami was of course captured by these other Digimon, and they basically have a whole bunch of lasers pointing at her, ready to kill her if he doesn't agree to work with them. He agrees. And then, of course, we know that that's when, of course, Takato and his group show up, and then they're able to save Minami and her father, and they're able to be reunited. And then we know that then Mephistomon reveals himself, and then, of course, the dad says, well, if maybe there's a way we can defeat Mephistomon, which, of course, that's when Takato, Rika, and Henry do the Trinity Burst, and of course, somehow the code to fix all of the V-Pets, the virus that was in the V-Pets, was inside of May. It was inside of the V-Pet that was based on May. That is, of course, what Labramon / Caesarmon comes from. That's what it, that's the code that it came from, and that's why when Minami calls Caesarmon / calls Labramon May, that allows it to release that. Which I'm like, okay, I get that it's supposed to be a cathartic thing, that she's able to identify that this thing is obviously based on May, and she's able to give it emotion, and that she has this bond with it and everything. But that seems like a very stupid caveat to have this thing released. It's just what if she never called him that? Then all the V-Pets would have just caused more trouble all over the world at the same time. But it's in the movie, it works, so sure, whatever. We know that May and her father are safe by the end of the movie, and Minami and her father are safe by the end of the movie because Golfmon is gone. Mephistomon / Golfmon is gone, and they're able to save the world again from basically what are more advanced Tamagotchi pets combined with Clippy from Microsoft Word. So yeah, there's that. There's not really any other Tamer families to talk about. In the last movie, we're not introduced to any other additional Tamers or any of their families, so there's nothing there. I guess I can vaguely mention Ai and Mako's family here. We don't see them that much. We see their dad at one point in time because he brings them home a new puppy, and then we see their grandma at one point in time because they go to stay with their grandma during the time frame when everything's happening with the D Reaper and the Digimon and such. And that's it. We don't see anything else about their family, so I threw them in here because we don't see anything else there. So that's what I have. That's it for the Digimon Tamers families. I will probably end up... Next up will probably be a video about the Monster Makers, and delving into that a little bit more. And then I was trying to figure out if I was going to do a video where I talk about the different allied Digimon that the Tamers end up having, but there's not really that many of them. But we'll see what I end up doing with that. I may at least end up doing one about Gigimon and Babamon, just because I love them so much. I may just do a video about them in general, just because they're fun. But we'll see from there what I end up doing. I've got, yeah, the Monster Makers is definitely going to be the next one. And then it's probably going to be going into the different enemies that they have to deal with. So that would be the different Digimon that bio-emerge, and then the Devas, and then going into the D-Reaper, but then also somewhere in there talking about the Digimon Sovereigns that are in this world, because they are separate to a degree than what I talked about for the Digimon Sovereign that are in the adventure world, because we get a lot more information about them in this world. So that'll probably be what I work on next for this. So I thank you for watching. Shorter video than normal, which is fine. So I thank you for watching, and I hope you have a nice rest of your day. Bye. Dog.